Hey everybody, how's it going? Today I'd like to talk about the Paycheck Protection Program and why I have decreasing faith in this program with each passing day. I would ask that before you form an opinion on this, that we keep partisanship out of it and that you put yourself in the shoes of a small business owner like myself for the first 5 minutes of the video and try to imagine how it is that you would feel at the end of this, having gone through this experience. I started going through this experience on April 2nd. It was the day that Steve Mnuchin had said that tomorrow they're going to be giving out loans, they'll be ready to take applications, and many banks will be able to give out money the same day. Banks like mine, some of the largest banks in the country, like Chase, again, not the best bank, but one of the largest ones in the country, one of the ones you would have figured they would have coordinated with when creating this program, had a page on their website that just politely said, don't contact us, don't come to a branch, don't call us. We'll let you know when we're offering this, but it's not going to be tomorrow. Then, several days later, they did have a page on their website that looked like an application, but it wasn't an actual application. This was a form that you fill out so that Chase can then contact you once the actual application is ready. This tricked a lot of people into believing it was the application, but it was not. I filled this out. I did not receive an email confirmation. I did not get contacted at any point in time. I did keep checking back on the site, not waiting for Chase to contact me. And early yesterday morning, I noticed that the site was updated with the actual real application. Chase had never contacted me like they said they would in their first application to tell me that this was ready, but luckily I found it and it was there and I was able to apply. Now, if we take a look at what most people believe this bill means, it says this is from Forbes, calculating the maximum amount of your loan. They use terms like payroll costs, calculate average monthly payroll costs, and this is the language that you'll see used in the actual bill, average monthly payroll costs, which is somewhat ambiguous. And I'd like to explain why it is that is ambiguous. So if you take a look at this spreadsheet that I received from my payroll provider, it has my different payroll costs here. So these are the employee earnings. This is what the employee sees in their paycheck, and then there is a part of this that is going to be taken out, the 20 to 40% in taxes, depending on where it is that you live and how many dependents you have, and so on and so forth. So this is the part where if I'm paying you $20 an hour, you'll see $20 an hour on your paycheck, and then after the taxes are taken out, it'll be somewhere between $15 to $17 an hour. But what most employees don't see is that there are actual payroll taxes that the employer pays that never show up on your pay stub. So in order for me to pay someone $20 an hour, I actually have to pay them closer to $22 an hour, as you can see here, because of the $624,114.73 that the employees see and then have taxes deducted from, there's another about $47,000, $49,000 of taxes on top of it, which means that my yearly payroll was not $624,000, it was actually $673,000. And there was a lot of confusion regarding whether or not you're supposed to count the earnings tab or the total payroll cost. And take note of the fact that my payroll provider themselves in their email to me this morning used the word hot debate to describe what has been going on regarding discussion in the payroll community about which box I'm going to use to determine my monthly payroll costs under this bill. Even the payroll company, when they sent me the reports, never told me which number to use, and now it makes sense why they were ambiguous in this matter, because they didn't even know, and they were fighting amongst themselves as to how the bill is to be interpreted. People like me thought that what you were supposed to count was total payroll cost, because what keeps getting mentioned is your total payroll, not just earnings, but total payroll. I decided to take a look on the website of the American Institute of Certified Professional Accountants, because I figured the American Institute of Certified Professional Accountants would understand how to interpret this a little bit better than I would. I read through this post that they made on April 4th, a day after applications had started, and it said over here, Mark Koziel, CPA, CGMA, the AICPA's Executive Vice President of Firm Services, added, based upon statements from members of Congress, it appears that the intent of the Paycheck Protection Program was to base the salary calculation on gross wages with no adjustment for federal taxes. This ensures that payroll tax expenses are not passed on to the small business in need. In a program of this magnitude, it's expected that guidance will evolve and terms will be clarified. This is not the interpretation of the bill from a small business owner, laptop repair person pretending that he knows what he's doing. This is the interpretation of the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants. I filled out my application yesterday morning, and then yesterday late afternoon and in the evening, This came out, which I'd like to show you. This came out from the Treasury Department, and this is where steam just starts rolling out of my head. As of April 6, 2020, as in after Lewis filled out his application, 3 days after applications were available from other banks, if you go to question 16, how should a borrower account for federal taxes when determining its payroll costs for the purposes of maximum loan amount, allowable uses of a PPP loan, and the amount of a loan that may be forgiven? Under the Act, payroll costs are calculated on a gross basis without regard to, i.e., not including subtractions or additions based on federal taxes imposed or withheld, such as the employee's or employer's share of FICA and income taxes required to be withheld from employees. As a result, payroll costs are not reduced by taxes imposed on an employee and required to be withheld by the employer, but payroll costs do not include the employer's share of payroll tax. I repeat, payroll costs do not include the employer's share of payroll tax, in direct opposition to how the American Institute of CPAs interpreted this bill. This bill is so vague that professional accountants and the trade organization that they belong to were in agreement that this was going to include those taxes. Then the application came out, and people filled them out listening to what their CPA told them, listening to what this website told them, because most small businesses are going to listen to their accountant. And then the Treasury Department comes out several days after millions of applications have been submitted and says, oh yeah, we didn't mean that. We're not covering that part, actually. So like what does this mean? What does this mean for the millions of people that filled out the application before you change the rules? Because it says on the site that we cannot edit our submission after we make it. We can't take back our application, redo it. It's like, what does that mean? Like, you're allowed to change the rules after the bill comes out, but we can't edit our application after submitting it to fit the new rules and clarifications that you made. Are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking serious? Because this is, again, this is just one of those tipping over the monopoly board moments in society. And I really, really, really hope that I am wrong. But if Boeing and Delta and United and all these other fuckface companies that put all their money into buying back stock rather than putting it for a rainy day fund are able to get their money, and millions of applications get denied on a technicality that was so vague that the Trade Association for Professional Accountants was in direct disagreement with you. Oh, that's not going to be good. It's not going to be good to see when millions of small business owners across the country just tip over the monopoly board and say, fuck it, I'm not playing by the rules anymore, because they're not just vague and apply differently to different people, but they're fundamentally humiliating. Changing the rules as to how to interpret the bill after millions of applications have been submitted is such utter horseshit. It's like trying to play a game of Street Fighter when someone is pouring water on your controller. It is like trying to play soccer when someone is dialing gravity up and down as you kick the ball. This is just fundamentally, at its core, a humiliating and degrading experience if people are actually declined. And I do genuinely pray and hope that this is not the way this turns out. That you do not decline the millions of people that submitted this based on their CPA's recommendations on a technicality, because you decided to change the clarification of the rules 3 days after the applications came out. But if Boeing and Delta and United, everybody else gets their bailout, and if they don't dot an I or cross a T, they have someone to call. They can resubmit their application, but the small business people cannot. That is going to be a monopoly board tipping over moment. I don't know what to say. Like, this is just beyond frustrating. Like, absolutely beyond frustrating. You follow every single rule. You follow every single guideline. And it's just like, trolled you. Psst, right? Like, right after you fill it out. I mean, I genuinely don't know what to say. You know, I speak to people it doesn't matter where in the political spectrum people tend to be, people don't seem to expect competence from government. When I speak to people on the right tend to believe that government is the problem, government is incompetent, government is bad at things, and they should be left out of it. When I speak to people on the left, they dislike Trump and don't think he is fit for office, so they distrust government and think that they're not going to do a good job as well. But regardless of who I speak to on whatever side of the aisle, it seems that there is this interesting consensus that government is somehow going to screw this up. And do you know how much I want to be wrong here? Do you have any idea how much I wish that I look back on this video and laugh at how stupid and wrong that I was, that government is going to do the right thing? I really have an incentive here to be wrong. But every single piece of evidence, every single thing that has occurred to this time points to me being correct. Points to this program being an absolute, utter clusterfuck from top to bottom, whether it's lack of preparedness, whether it's statements on preparedness that are not correct, whether it is banks that decide we're going to give the money to customers that owe us money first before everybody else can get it, or the rules changing 3 days after it comes out. Where would you be as a small business owner if you were going through this? What do you think of this entire experience? I'm genuinely curious to hear what you have to say in the comments down below. Me? I'm like this close to wanting to just tip over the Monopoly board. And as I've said many times before, it's a bad place to be in when society organizes itself in a way where people that play by the rules for 5 or 10 or 15 years and do everything by the book, at some point just decide, fuck it. You want to avoid that. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. That's it for today. And as always, I hope you learned something. And if you're filling out your PPP application, make sure to read the Treasury Department guidelines linked below. I'll see you in the next video.